بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. معالي الدكتور نايف فلاح مبارك الحجرف، الأمين العام لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة والضيوف الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلاً وسهلاً بجميع الضيوف والمشاركين في مؤتمر الذكاء الاصطناعي في شؤون المحاكم والقانون، والذي تنظمه الأمانة العامة لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية مع المجموعة العالمية للذكاء الاصطناعي. ونحن نقف اليوم لنقدم أولاً كل الشكر والامتنان لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية لدعمهم وجهودهم الحثيثة في تعزيز التعاون في المجال القانوني والقضائي ووضع أنظمة متماثلة في مختلف الميادين بما يلبي طموحات وآمال أصحاب الجلالة والسمو قادة دول المجلس حفظهم الله ورعاهم، وبما يخدم مصلحة شعوب دول المجلس. ولا يفوتنا أيضاً أن نثمن دور المجلس البارز في دعم كافة الجهود والأفكار المتصلة بموضوع مؤتمر اليوم على كافة المستويات وكل الأصعدة، مما أكسبه أهمية كبرى وجعله محط فخر لنا. السادة الأفاضل، يسعدنا أن نستهل أولى محطات المؤتمر ونتشرف بدعوة معالي الدكتور نايف فلاح مبارك الحجرف، الأمين العام لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية، لإلقاء كلمته، فليتفضل مشكورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على معلمنا الأول سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الأخوات والأخوة الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اسمحوا لي بداية أن أرفع التهاني والتبريكات لمقام صاحب السمو الشيخ خليفة بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة حفظه الله، وإلى صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب رئيس مجلس الوزراء، نائب رئيس الدولة، رئيس مجلس الوزراء حاكم دبي، على استضافة الحدث الدولي إكسبو 2020 في دبي، والذي يجمعنا اليوم ويعكس الإمكانيات والمقومات التي تتمتع بها دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة لتقدم نسخة متميزة من معرض إكسبو ستشكل علامة فارقة في تاريخه. كما يسعدني ويشرفني أن أرحب بكم في مؤتمر الذكاء الاصطناعي في شؤون المحاكم والقانون، والذي يأتي في وقت يتطلب منا جميعاً تبادل الخبرات والعمل على الارتقاء بالأداء ومحاكاة المستقبل. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، أن دول العالم تشهد مع انطلاق الثورة الصناعية الرابعة تنافساً فيما بينها في تطوير بنيتها التحتية لمواكبة التغيرات القادمة في مجال التقنية الرقمية خاصة، وذلك لمواكبة الاقتصاد الحديث وتعزيز قوة التنافسية والتنمية لدى الدول. ولا يخفى عليكم أن العدالة هي أحد أهم أركان الاقتصاد الناجح لدول العالم، مما يستلزم معه مواكبة المنظومة القضائية للتطورات التي يشهدها العالم، بما يسهم في تعزيز وتحقيق العدالة الناجزة. ولعل المتابع يدرك أن دول مجلس التعاون تمتلك، وبفضل الله ثم بفضل قادتها وإرادة وتصميم شعوبها، كل المقومات التي سخرتها للانخراط والمنافسة المضي نحو مستقبل واعد. وقد خطت دول المجلس خطوات ثابتة نحو الثورة الصناعية الرابعة منذ انطلاقها من خلال وضع الرؤى الاستراتيجية وتطوير منظومتها الحكومية والتشريعية. ولعل ما مر به العالم في ظل ظروف جائحة كورونا أثبت نجاح دول مجلس التعاون في تسخير التكنولوجيا لخدمة مواطنيها في شتى المجالات، ونشيد هنا بما اتخذه مرفق القضاء بدول المجلس من خطوات لتحقيق العدالة في ظل الظروف الصعبة التي عاشها العالم، وذلك عبر تطوير منظوماتها القضائية بإيجاد نظام للتقاضي عن بعد ابتداء من رفع الدعوى وقيدها حتى مرحلة تنفيذ الحكم، وذلك كله دون الإخلال بالحقوق الأساسية والدستورية للأفراد. وفي الختام نأمل أن يكون هذا المؤتمر فرصة للمناقشة وتبادل الأفكار في مجال استشراف مستقبل المنظومة القضائية بتسخير الذكاء الاصطناعي لما له من نتائج إيجابية في تحقيق العدالة واختصار الوقت، شاكراً ومقدراً كافة الجهود التي بذلت لتنظيم والإعداد لهذا المؤتمر، وندعو الله أن يسدد على الخير خطاكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
نشكر معالي الدكتور نايف فلاح مبارك الحجرف على هذه الكلمة الراقية. والآن اسمحوا لي أن أدعو الدكتور جاسم حاجي رئيس المجموعة العالمية للذكاء الاصطناعي لإلقاء كلمته، فليتفضل مشكورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رحب بأصحاب المعالي والسعادة الحضور الكرام من دول مجلس التعاون والأخوة المتحدثين والمتحدثات من الدول الأوروبية، بالأخص من بلجيكا، الأخوة من إسبانيا. رحب وأشكر في البداية معالي الدكتور نايف فلاح مبارك الحجرف حفظه الله على دعمه ومساهمته في نجاح مؤتمر الذكاء الاصطناعي في شؤون المحاكم والقانون، سائلين الله أن يبارك في عمل معاليكم ويسدد على الخير خطاه. كما أود أن أثمن على حاليا الدعم الكبير والمساندة المستمر التي وجدتها من سعادة المستشار سلطان بن ناصر السويدي من خلال العمل اللي بدأنا من قبل أكثر من 3 شهور، عمل جبار ومتابعات والفكرة الرائدة من سعادته. كانت واجد يعني الوحدة مع فريق العمل، بالأخص يمكن أخذ الفرصة أشكر الأخوة ماجد معاذ ومحمد في دعمهم والعقيد فهد. كما أشهد بدور رائد والمشهود في سبيل المسيرة التطويرية في مجال الشؤون القانونية على صعيد الخليجي والدولي. هذا المؤتمر يعتبر الأول من نوع على مستوى المنطقة ويمكن على مستوى الدولي في مجال الذكاء الاصطناعي في المحاكم والقوانين. أنا عملت قبل بداية المؤتمر على بحث دولي أن في مؤتمرات أو ورش عن الذكاء الاصطناعي في شؤون المحاكم ولا ما أجد أي. فبدعم من معالي وسعادة الأمين العام مساعد قدرنا أن نرتب ورق عمل راح اليوم تشوفونه طبعا باللغة الإنجليزية، ولكن كان في جهود من شهرين على تطوير الأفكار المختلفة في المجال لكي نقدر نقدمهم. مثل هذه المؤتمرات تفتح آفاق واسعة لتعزيز مكانة دول مجلس التعاون كمنطقة جلب ومركز لعلوم الذكاء الاصطناعي في الشرق الأوسط، حيث يتم فيها طرح أهمية التحول الرقمي في الثورة القانونية والتحديات المحيطة بها في عدة مجالات مثل الأمن السيبراني في المنشآت الحكومية والبيانات الضخمة وكيفية التركيز على الابتكار أثناء العملية. وإحنا في مجموعة العالمية الذكاء الاصطناعي المجموعة العالمية تكون من أكثر من 25 دولة عالمية وأكثر من 500 عضو من الفنيين الأكاديميين ومختصين وتنفيذيين. أسرع مجموعة عالمية في مجال الذكاء الاصطناعي، ونتوقع أن الدول التي تشارك في المجموعة توصل إلى أكثر من 60 دولة في نهاية العام ول 150 دولة في عام 2022. وشرفني كممثل لمملكة البحرين أن أكون رئيساً للمجموعة العالمية واختياراً من الدول الصديقة. May I say a few words in English for our colleagues who have came a long way. I want to first thank His Excellency, the General Secretary, for his patronage of this event, the international event, the first of its kind, not only in the Middle East, but globally. Also the Assistant General Secretary for his innovative ideas, for his support in the past 3 months, and his team to bring artificial intelligence conference in law, judiciary, and courts. I would like to thank especially my friends from Belgium, Spain, and Portugal, who made a long way to come here and share with us their ideas. Without further ado, I would like to take the opportunity again to thank Your Excellencies and leave you with the presentations today. Shukran.
نشكر الدكتور جاسم حاجي على الكلمة والتعاون المستمر في تنظيم مختلف البرامج الهادفة إلى ربط التكنولوجيا الحديثة بالممارسات العملية في مختلف المجالات. والآن فليتفضل الأستاذ أحمد صالح البلوشي مدير جلسات اليوم لإدارة الجلسة وتقديم المتحدثين.
Can you just fix this one? Yeah? That's great. No. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. معالي الأمين العام، أصحاب السمو والسعادة، أيها الجمهور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My name is Ahmed Saleh Al-Balushi. I am from Bahrain, and I will be your moderator for today's event, hoping that the content will be of your interest, inshallah. As we know that AI is the bone these days of everything, and we believe is that law and courts are no difference. Therefore, we will host today 4 experts in the fields of artificial intelligence who will be talking about AI in court and law affairs. Therefore, let me first call the first speaker, who is Professor Adoya Salazar, who is the co-founder and president of the Observatory of the Social and Ethical Impact of Artificial Intelligence, Odessa. She is professional and international degrees at CEO San Pablo University in Spain. Professor Adoya is also a country advisor for Spain and the advisory board of the International Group of Artificial Intelligence. She is on the list of experts to assess the European Parliament's Artificial Intelligence Observatory, a principal investigator of the SIMP-AIR research group, Social Impact of AI and Robotics, and she is author of 4 books about AI and its impacts. Please allow me to welcome Ms. Adoya, Mrs. Adoya. Okay, I think this is yours. Is this yours?
Okay. Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, salam alaikum. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I would like to start asking you a question. Do you prefer to be judged in court by a robot or a regular human? Maybe asking you this question like 10 years ago or 15 years ago could seem like science fiction. Just imagine. I think it's a time in which we really have to stop and think about several things. As I'm telling you, what it was like 15 years ago just in the movies, we have it today in our news, in all around us, and it's something that we are going to be talking about during this talk. But there is another thing very important that we have to think about. Are we prepared as a society for this? We need to be thinking not only in scientific level, we don't have to think just as experts in AI, but we also have to share all the things that we are going to be talking here with our societies. Is the regular people, everybody that is in the street down there, ready for the big impact that artificial intelligence is going to have in their lives? That is one thing that we really have to think about. So let's start thinking about education society in general, not just about educating just the experts. Why it is that much confusion around? There are plenty of people that are very afraid of these technologies. The people down there don't know the difference between an AI system and a robot, really. It's quite confusing for everyone. Why? Because this technology has some peculiarities that make us that confusion. One of these is, for example, machines taking decisions. Before AI, just were the humans the ones that were taking decisions. Nowadays, we are thinking about machines taking that decisions. Another thing, machine bias. We are talking about ethics of machine bias. There's another thing that causes confusion because another question that we have to ask ourselves is, can a machine be ethical? Can a machine be biased? Or the ones that are being still biased are humans? That is another important thing. Another important thing about this is our prejudices from science fiction. We really need to eliminate all of these prejudices of science fiction that everybody of us has before keeping going with this technology. Take aside all of these prejudices, and then after that, keep building all this new knowledge in a good way. And another very important thing that is happening nowadays is like these technologies goes so fast. Today we are thinking about something, and tomorrow we have to think about different things. We have to prepare ourselves all the time. We have to be preparing ourselves like many times. It's not a matter of just having some education today and that's it for 10 years, but we have to be, even every month, getting new knowledge. These are some of the news that we have found in last years in newspapers. Most of them are related to these biases machines that we were talking about. Some of them are related, for example, of AI systems recruiting people. For example, here, this one in Amazon. In this example, Amazon was using an AI system to recruit people for 3 years. And during this time, this AI system just was getting just man from 30 to 40 years old, just white. And when they realized that when humans in this company realized that something was happening, was like 3 years later, okay? So I would like to ask you if you really believe if the fault was of the machine or the fault was the human people that was in the Department of Human Resources of Amazon. In this case, really, the humans had a lot of confidence, too much confidence in the machine, and let the machine to be automatic at this point. And that is not the point. We should, as we are going to see as in this conference, we should take the AI system as a tool to help humans, not as something to substitute ourselves. Because if not, that prejudice that we have in our mind that the AI systems are going to take out our jobs are going to become a reality. So nowadays it's a human decision. It's not a machine decision. It is a human decision. We are in a very important moment in history in which we as humans have to decide what way to take. The one in which these AI systems are going to take decisions by themselves in everything, or just to use these AI systems as a tool to help ourselves to live better. There may be some people that would think that I prefer to be judged by a robot. Maybe a robot do not have, if it's like absolutely more clear, could be like maybe very, very good in the data that is managing. So there are people even that it would be better to have politicians that were like AI systems nowadays. But let's see a little bit what is the difference, some of the difference between a human judge and an AI judge. It's just something to think about, as I was telling you. Just imagine a human judge. We have possible bias and prejudices in the human judge to slowing the processes. I don't know here, but in Spain, the court is like too slow. Also, it is limited in knowledge. We are limited as humans. Also, need to rest, could get sick, cannot work like 24 hours a day. And then we have an AI judge. Possible bias, if no control by design, explainability. You know that nowadays it is like very, very difficult to explain the decision that the machine is taking, but is under investigation. So we hope in the next future we are going to solve this problem. Another thing, not possible to apply context on a situation. That means that when we take a decision as humans, we don't analyze just data, but we put a context over that decision. We take into account other elements that are not just normal data. Another thing that is like a problem with this is like this AI judge could suffer technical problems. It's a machine, could suffer technical problems. Advantages: human judge can contextualize the situation, explain the decision, which is good, and the AI judge is like very, very fast analyzing much more data, don't forget ever, and could be more objective. So there are many people, many studies around, so could be better to the judge, the human judge or the AI judge. And there are some of these studies that says, for example, that talking about this, that robots can analyze body language to determine guilt with 99% of accuracy. So with facial recognition, this AI robot could just look at the person that is being judged, could see if he's being like the one that is guilty or not. And they were saying that maybe in 50 years, they are also talking about replacement. For example, in China and in other places, there have been many attempts to roboticize some of the tasks that nowadays have related with legal things. For example, legal advice, help the public get to grips with legal terminology. And also in Estonia or in Canada, you can see like robot lawyers and many other AI systems in which they are taking some of the task of lawyers nowadays. Anyway, so let's see what is the conclusion for this? Collaboration, no substitution. It's not a matter of just getting robots or just AI systems working for a court. The good thing, and we have seen this with many examples of this, is to collaborate. So if we collaborate with these machines, getting these machines as something to amplify our capacity to take decisions, we as humans are going to gain more. I put you this example of Babylon. I don't know if you know this Babylon, which is a website. It's a health example, but I thought it was quite related to the case that we are studying about artificial intelligence in court and law affairs. Babylon uses an AI system in which you can include your health problems, And the AI system is learning of you. And if you use it a lot, they give you advice about what to do. It's just for minor cases that if the AI system considers that you have like a strong disease, they're going to tell you to go to the doctor. But this app is helping a lot for some specific places this app is helping, for example, for some people that are not possible to go to the doctor. For example, in some African countries that the doctor is too far from the place that they are living, they are helping to get to these people. Also, in United Kingdom, they are using it a lot, and it helps a lot to make lower the list of waiting for going to the doctor to primary attention, health attention. And it's been really, really helpful for doctors, not to substitute doctors, but to put these AI systems in a specific gap and to find the gap and fill it out with AI. We are talking about collaborating AI as a tool, not as a substitution for humans. So we should be thinking about human as a center. The AI system is not the center. The human is the center. And the decision for this is to us. We have to really take nowadays the decision. The matter is not if this technology is able to get to what we can imagine ourselves in science fiction, but the thing is to decide as humans the way in which we want to guide to this technology. Let's talk just a little bit about the ethical problems, and get back again to this question that we talked before about, can a robot be ethical? I really would like that after my talk you take out this question out of your head, because the one that has to be ethical is still the human. Not the robot. A robot cannot be ethical. We are the ones that have to keep this in our head. We are the ones that still have to be fair. The transparency is very important when we, as humans, take the data that feed the AI system. Also, we are the ones that have to be talking about and caring about the privacy, accountability, and inclusiveness in this technology, not the AI system. So we, in our organization, Odisseia, and there are many people that also around the world that are thinking about this, we are trying to study ways to minimize the bad impact of this technology. This technology, I really believe that is a must. We should use artificial intelligence nowadays, but there are some things that we should be doing in order to minimize that risk that technology could have. One of these is audit AI algorithms by private companies. National certification could be very good because it could help to gain confidence to the general public, this national certification. Also, legislation on specific cases, for example, in the European Commission, they are doing, in Europe, they are doing some laws that would start like almost in 2 years that prevent, for example, facial recognition in public spaces. And also, there's another important way to minimize risk, which is create corporate awareness raised by organizations such as mine, but there are other ones, training in public administration on the real impact of AI, keeping aside all of the producers and how to promote this technology, minimizing risk, and training and social awareness. So we should be thinking of ethics from design. Let's do it from the beginning and not when we have already the bad impact of this technology. Another very important thing that I started to say at the beginning, we really need a drastic change in our education at all levels. Everybody has to know the impact, not about the technology itself, not about the technical thing about AI, but everybody, even the third age, old people, young people, everybody has to know about the impact of the technology, how it's going to impact our privacy and all of these things. Everybody needs to know to gain confidence. Another thing, encourage of a critical spirit. This is very important. Just imagine machines taking decisions by themselves. Okay? If we don't have that critical spirit, we are going to make us like these big companies of data are going to guide us in the way that they want. We really need to have these critical spirits to be the ones that decide what to do, not the machine. The machine shouldn't decide what to do. We are the one that have to decide this. This is the only way to create enough confidence for society. This is the confidence in society is something that we have to work very much in. So this is my sentence. Not everybody has to be artificial. Not everything has to be artificial in the age of artificial intelligence. We should be using artificial intelligence just for this gaps that we have as humanity to make things better, not to put it everywhere. We need to change the strategies. We really need to know for what to use artificial intelligence, and we could live together with natural things. And another very important thing that we should be thinking about, talking about that, remember that nowadays training an AI systems means a big carbon footprint. Training a single AI model can emit as much carbon as 5 cars in their lifetimes. It's something that we should be thinking about. My conclusions. So the use of AI in court and laws affairs is not an option. It is a need in a data-driven world, but just as a tool for humans. Collaboration, not substitution. The final decision should be made by a human judge who will be able to explain it in an appropriate manner. We cannot give the responsibility of the decision to the machine. If we do that, we are going to give them rights, and I don't think it's the point right now. We should not use artificial intelligence for everything in courts. We have to think about strategies and use it in those tasks where can have benefits for this area and for the humans involved, of course. And education and consciousness of professional and general society to create confidence. This is one of the most important things. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Okay, I think maybe he needs as well. Thank you very much, Professor Idoia. Now, I would like okay. Sorry for that, but the mouse is not moving. Why the mouse not moving? Don't know. Just make it bigger. No, not here. Not here. Wait. I want this one. Yeah. No, that second one. This one. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Interesting. AI cannot replace judge. Cannot replace human. Okay, let's go for the second speaker, Dr. Lorenzo Coutinho. Dr. Lorenzo is a professor of constitutional law at the University of Valencia. He's a former judge of the High Court of Justice of the Valencia region, 2000 until 2019. He's a PhD in law and a graduate and advanced studies in political science. He's also the Odysseus Privacy Director, President since 2004 of National Association, guest professor at Constance, Germany since 2004. Honorarily, he's professor of the Universidad Nacional of Colombia and you, author or editor of 20 books. I'll not go, he has a big bio. So I would like to welcome Dr. Lorenzo to present his speech.
I will be here.
I will stay here? All right, good, great. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Well. Salam alaikum. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the honorable authorities, public and colleagues. Thank you very much to the Dr. Hashim and the organization for Ahmed. I will present especially, I don't know if my presentation is prepared. I don't think so. One moment. Yes, it is. It is okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I will present, especially I will focus my speech on some uses of the artificial intelligence in justice, as I have been, and I will very shortly present more than 100 European Union projects under the idea they are showing seeds for the future. I will talk about China. They are not showing seeds, they are reaping profits of artificial intelligence and some uses of the ODR systems. There is a report, more than 500 pages, about the use of the innovative technologies in the field of, in the justice field from the European Commission. There are more than 93 projects from the state members, more than 30 projects with the states in collaboration with private companies. It's not easy to summarize that in 3 minutes, but the majority of these projects, they are ongoing, they aren't complete. And we can extract the basic ideas of the projects, especially what are the problems that artificial intelligence can solve in justice. Especially, as you can see, the idea normally is to extract knowledge from big data, structured data or non-structured data in special. Also to processing and to have knowledge and intelligence from video in justice, evidences, trials, audio, images, recognizing people, anything like that. Also, it's very important working with high volumes of data, and especially in the administration and the management of justice, there are a lot of entities implied, and then it's very difficult to link all these kind of documents and information, and normally it is used artificial intelligence to that, to link these different sources of information. Also to improve the knowledge in legal matters, in jurisprudence, case law, for the public and for the lawyers in special. It is used in these more than 90 projects. It's used to the data protection compliance, especially with the anonymation and pseudonymization of the data of the physical people, not to be linked, especially to be able to publish this kind of information and to manage this information, fulfilling the strong and the very high requirements in data protection. Also, artificial intelligence is used in the administration of justice, especially with human resources, and to facilitate the management of the documents and translations, etc. Well, we can see normally it's used the automatization of process of automatization of information, organization, planning, management, prioritization of the different information. As I have commented in a lot of projects, the focus is to anonymize the data of the personal people, the physical people. Not many cases of predictive justice, not for prediction. Normally it's most fascinating to think about this kind of use of artificial intelligence. Not many cases of facial recognition, only 5%, and few projects of the use of chatbots with artificial intelligence for better information to the public. This, it could be not very funny, the European projects. It could be not very funny, but you can see an extract of some of them, not the more fun, but we are here not for fun, and they are building step by step the uses of the artificial intelligence in justice, in classification, in recognition of text, and maybe more attractive, the uses of, for example, in Lithuania, for discover criminal networks, in Germany to discover criminal on the networks, even in Spain in hate speech crimes. For example, in Austria or in Portugal, about using chatbots for information to the people. Sometimes using facial recognition in case of abuse of children. Sometimes in fascinating things to make a robot image for the child who has been abused, or to prioritize what cases are more or less important. Well, there are some of these cases, maybe they are more attractive when we are thinking more in the paper of the role of the judge. In the cases of Estonia, it was very known, but the reality is that there is no case of Estonia. Estonia is the most digital, the country who has more digitalization in the public sector. They have a lot of experiences. But former minister announced one judge to judge, artificial judge to judge, cases of less than 7,000 euros. But there is not any activity in that area. Everybody talks about, but it doesn't exist. Well, the most advanced projects are in collaboration with the private sector. But in the European Union, they have strong problems to collaborate private sector with the public sector in relation with privacy and especially the transparency. It's very difficult to get from IBM, from Microsoft, or from Google with a new document IE. They are working very strong. Maybe they are more better than the rest of the projects of the state members, but it's very difficult to collaborate because it's not easy to have all the explainability or transparency from them. There are not cases, only the United Kingdom, today is not in the European Union, using Predpol, very known, the cases of Predpol, Compass, RTM, but they are not, we don't know if the police in Europe that are using these systems, because normally they don't fulfill the due process guarantees. I don't have too much time to talk about, for example, Siri. Siri is not, as we know, the system by iPhone, but there is a Siri with Y in Holland. It was a system to discover fraud, to discover irregularities, and it has been declared unconstitutional by the Hague Court in 2020. The level of exigence to fulfill the law is very, very high. It was declared unconstitutional for discrimination, for not transparency, for being against privacy and data protection and due process, especially not to be enough transparent. This system in the Netherlands was really very good regulated with a lot of guarantees, only one law for it and one rule detailing all the guarantees. In any case, the court declared it unconstitutional. We have in Valencia region one very interesting system. It's called SATAN. SATAN is Sistema de Alertas Tempranas. It's nothing to do with the devil, but it was designed by Falciani, a very known person who escaped from Switzerland to Spain and has designed one system against the fraud. It's an automatic system, and probably it doesn't fulfill the guarantees of the European and Spanish law. Well, to talk about China, it is really fascinating, the things they are doing today. Really, we can talk that in China, there are judges, artificial judges today, not in the next 50 years. We can follow especially the experience of Hanyu Internet Court, a system, a system by Alibaba is a court specialized in commerce law. In the same China information could explain that this system can perceive and understand, think and reason, make decisions and take action, collaborate and interact. Reality is fascinating because they told with a lot of details how the system prepares previously all the case law, present all the information to the parts, and especially before the judging by the judge prepares a report showing what is the more important in the case. But during the evidences, the testimony, the witnesses, etc., dynamically it refocuses what are the more important topics and present the arguments to the judge. And the judge have the possibility to accept or not the resolution, the decision that the system proposed. It's really very, very advanced. It works since 2017. In the annual report of informatization of Chinese courts, very amazing documents, we can follow two experiences from China, very interesting for me. One may be more negative from my point of view, is the case of the supervisory platform of the Jibin People's Court in Sichuan. This system is designed top-bottom. It's special to supervise the superior courts, supervising the inferior courts. The tool serves to analyze if they are sharing of the baselines of the high courts. The system can freeze the process of the inferior courts. The system can follow the times of the inferior courts, especially to supervise and to control the discretionality of the inferior courts. The other experience, maybe is more positive from my point of view, is the case of the Jiangxi High Courts, the electronic judge assistant faxing 2.0. It is close to the experience of the Alibaba system I have told before. The system is prepared especially to assist the judge, present all the with a deep analysis with artificial intelligence, present all the arguments, all the legal cases who proceed, propose decisions to the judge, and organize to all the digital court, all the videos, all the declarations, the evidences, etc., and even the final documents as proposals. Well, in the end, I will talk a little bit about the online dispute resolutions. Online dispute resolutions, it is very clear the person of Seleknikov is an academic who has designed more than 25 years working about that, the digitalization of these kind of ODR systems. I have selected a lot of experiences about that, but probably I have to stress the Australian system to resolution of family civil law matters. It is called Family Wizard, this developed more or less by Seleknikov, and also following these matters, the Netherlands system. The Netherlands system is called Roadmap to Justice. It's very interesting in this area. Normally, these systems organize what is in the discussion, what are the alternatives of the negotiation, all the chambers of the chat rooms and the information to resolve the problems. And there are very kinds of them, but for sure I have to stress the importance of the case of the British Columbia Civil Resolution Tribunal for cases of less than $5,000. The results is not a robotic judge, but all the system is automaticized, digitalized, and only 12 cases of more than 14,000 required the intervention of a judge in the end. Also, it is commented by the doctrine, the case of the Ontario Superior Court of Justice. The platform is called Digital Hearing Workspace, and probably is in the case of ODR cases, one of the most successful and efficient systems. Well, in the last minute, I only like to stress that in the European Union, we have a lot of problems to admit this kind of robotic judges in the most advanced sense. But we have a proposal of artificial intelligence rule. It is presented in this year, has been presented, and for the first time, is writing in a future law the possibility of robotic judges, the possibility of uses like in the case of the United States that is used more for criminal purposes, predictive cases, for predicting individual profiles to these kind of matters. For the first time, it is presented as a possibility in the European Union. And, for example, the perception is very negative. For example, in France, it's 5 years of jail for the people who made profiles of the judges. It is a very normal thing in the United States. In France, it's 5 years of jail. Maybe it will change. Any case, I don't like to spend more time for my colleagues, and thank you very much, and I hope to be here with you. Thank you.
كل الشكر والامتنان للأخوة المتحدثين على هذا العرض المثري. الحضور الكريم، سعداء جدا بتواجدكم، ونود أن نعلمكم ببدء فترة الاستراحة، وذلك لمدة 10 دقائق.
جابوها بس صار في مشكله في مايكين والشمس ان شاء الله تعالج. ما ادري هي على الاطار بس اكيد.
Sure, sure, why not? Why not? If you can remove your mask, if you don't.
شو بيساعد؟
Profile picture? Instagram, Facebook,
Yes.
LinkedIn.
Oh. سمعت شنو؟
ما ادري لما كنت 25 متى
35 قلنا 10 الى ربع ساعه.
ادري عليك قول لي
خذيت ربع ساعه صح؟
ربع ساعه واذا داخل السياره يعني
ايه خذ راحتك.
هي اوكي
هي
اوكي والله تبقى حبيبي مش حالك
هو سليمان. ما يعرف وين ستاند؟ ستاند وين؟ اللي يمسك.
عودة لكم من جديد، فليتفضل الأستاذ أحمد صالح البلوشي لاستكمال الجلسة الحوارية مع باقي المتحدثين.
Assalamu alaikum. And now we will continue with our third speaker. He's from Belgium. Badr is a best-selling AI author. He's the president of AI Together in Belgium, an international organization gathering the most eminent AI leaders from the private sector, TEDx speaker, and TV columnist. He is also the most quoted AI specialist in Belgium and a management committee member of the Belgian Finance Center. Please welcome with me, Mr. Badr.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. شرف لي أن أكون معكم في هذا اليوم الأمين. So, hello everybody. Thank you for your attention. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence in justice. So, the first part, why AI in the practice of law. Secondly, one of the most promising methods of artificial intelligence for the future, the neurosymbolic learning. And at the end, we're going to understand why will not AI replace judges. So actually, artificial intelligence is a systemic tool, meaning that this tool will have an impact on all sectors simultaneously. That means there is a great value to extract. I'm going to skip the first part because this part is the most important one, is key to understand how artificial intelligence will help judges in the practice of law. So this is the neurosymbolic learning. As you know, humans use logic reasoning and common sense reasoning. Common sense reasoning tells us what is the objective, what the objective of situation is. And logic reasoning is also important in order to give a hierarchy of elements. Judges have the ability actually to give the context to a situation. So far, AI cannot. And with neurosymbolic learning, it will be a new method that will assist judges in terms of reasoning. It will not replace judges, but it will help them understand how we can empower, actually, the analysis of cases. It consists actually of weighting the element that constitute a case. It could be the legal context, but also the hierarchy of element. This is reasoning, and artificial intelligence will help you understand and explore opportunities. Actually, the neurosymbolic learning is the combination between rules-based systems and semantic understanding. It combines two main fields of artificial intelligence: symbolic learning and connectionist learning. So deep learning models that needs data to increase prediction. The question is, why should we use neurosymbolic learning for the future? Actually, the neurosymbolic learning is very interesting because it uses few data. That means that this method is much more ecological than the other methods, especially deep learning, for example, that use more and more data, and actually with data you improve your prediction rate. And actually there are three main criterion that assume that neurosymbolic learning will be much more important than all methods we have been using for a while in law and also in other sectors. First of all, if you can remember and keep in mind this table, it will be a big win for today. Because it's very important to understand how neurosymbolic learning will create value compared to other methods. So you have the symbolic learning. Symbolic learning is a rule-based learning, is a rule-based approach. That means that you have several rules and you just need to follow the rules in order to have a prediction. Connectionist, as you may know, it's like deep learning. So deep learning, a big model, black box, you have thousands of data, and actually you need to increase the prediction rate with data. And finally, you have the neurosymbolic learning in the last table. So let's start with explainability. Explainability is one of the most important issue, one of the most important thing to consider in artificial intelligence. We need to understand what artificial intelligence does. Here, for example, in symbolic learning, it's very easy to be explainable, to have an explainable AI. Why? Because you have several rules, and you just need your reasoning skills in order to understand why your reasoning came from an input to an output. So for judges, it is actually very easy to understand. For connectionism or deep learning, very difficult. Why? Because it's a black box. You have like many layers in the neural networks, and actually from a layer to another, there is an increasing abstraction. That means that human being can understand why an artificial intelligence provide us with a specific reasoning or specific output. For neurosymbolic learning, it's interesting because actually it's a rule-based system, so you can still review the artificial intelligence and you can still understand how this reasoning has been built. And at the same time, it's fed by data. I'm going to explain why. Second point, generalization. So generalization is actually a learning algorithm's ability to adapt to any new or unseen data. For symbolic learning, remember, rule-based system, it doesn't work. It's very difficult. You can't actually use all data for a rule-based system because this symbolic system is quite limited. For connectionism, it's fine because as I told you like earlier, data is very important. Data is key for deep learning systems. So if you put data in connectionist learning, it works. It's fine. And of course, neurosymbolic learning combine actually the qualities, the good sides of connectionism and symbolic. Now, let's talk about extrapolation. So, in a nutshell, extrapolation is a learning algorithm's ability to extrapolate, for example, a model to a new situation, to a new case. And actually, the case would be quite different, but semantically identical. And this gives actually power to neurosymbolic learning. And I'm going to take the example of symbolic learning. With symbolic learning, of course, you can use the rule-based system in many different contexts. It works. But for connectionism, for deep learning models, it doesn't work. Why? Let me give you an example. when you use, for example, a deep learning model to recognize lions in the jungle, it's fine, it works. More data you have, the prediction will get higher and higher. But when you use this model to, for example, recognize a song from the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, it won't work at all because it's totally different context. That means that you can't extrapolate deep learning models. But with neurosymbolic learning, actually, you can adapt your model to different cases. It could be, for example, a dispute between lawyers, or maybe a discussion or conversation between a judge and another lawyer. And you just need to feed it with conversational learning. That means words, phrases, sentences, texts. And we know that there is a huge opportunity in your field. Why? Because 80% of available data is unstructured data. That means text, conversation, words, songs, etc., etc. And at the end, finally, we're going to talk about ethics and performance. This is very important. Even though we are talking about the judicial system, there is always this consideration about performance and ethics. So for symbolic learning, actually, it's very ethic because actually you can review it very easily. I mean, it's a rule-based approach, so you can easily interpret the journey between the input and the output. For the connectionism, it's different. The performance is very high as long as you have data available. If you have data available and like very great data scientists, you will get a great performance and great prediction rates. And this is very interesting. But in terms of ethics, deep learning models are not very performant. Why? Because it's a black box. And when you have a black box with like thousands of layers, sometimes you can play with fine-tuning those layers, but actually at the end you won't have like an increasing understanding of what you do. And of course, in the judicial system it could be very risky. But for neurosymbolic learning, of course, you will combine performance and ethics. Ethics consideration, why? Because actually you can review this rule-based system because you can understand how it goes from the input and the output. And also, you can get this model better and better, more powerful in terms of prediction because you can feed it with data on a daily basis. And more cases you have, more the model will be performant. And that's why neurosymbolic learning is, in my point of view, the future of artificial intelligence in law, in the practice of law. And it will also help judges to increase their responsibility in terms of decision making. Why? Because actually when you have that kind of artificial intelligence, you have the knowledge, you know the law, so you can tell to people why this artificial intelligence works or doesn't work. And this is very important. So you will not get replaced by an artificial intelligence. It will help you to improve reasoning. It will give you a better power, a more powerful situation in terms of cases analysis. So let's give you an example. How concretely neurosymbolic learning works. Let's start with a statement. You know, in this old statistical tools, you have like this common if-then, if, na-na-na, then, na-na-na. Let's take an example. If a lawyer is a bad lawyer, then he must be brave. This is an if-then. And I added the intention, the goal, because he wants to be successful. In the first systems, statistical systems, you won't get the goal. And in cases, in the judicial system, you need to understand the intents, the context, as I told you in the first place. This is very important. So I added for you to this statement several intents. So first of all, if a lawyer loses more than 3 cases, then he will feel bad. If he feels bad, then he will do his best to think positive. If he thinks positive and learns from his mistakes, then he will be successful. Okay, what is the result of that? We just created a logic reasoning thanks to neurosymbolic learning, because actually you create a logic tree. So the if is converted to then, and then is converted to if. that gives us the result, the following result. If he learns from his mistakes, then he will think positive, then he will be successful. So this is what you will find on, in actually neurosymbolic learning systems. And you will be able to review it, all of you. And actually, it will give you this tree. So remember, we started with this following statement. If a lawyer is a bad lawyer, then he must be brave because he won't be successful. Now, we just created a new tree of reasoning, logic reasoning. If he feels bad, then he will learn from his mistakes. If he thinks positive, then he will be successful. And on the other side, you have another result, another reasoning. If he must be brave, then he will think positive, then he will be successful. This will be neurosymbolic learning in the judicial system for the future. This is how it's going to work. This is my conviction, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to work because it gives you more importance in terms of analyze, and also it will help you to actually be fairer in the analysis. Okay, let's start with the, or let's finish with the final slide. Okay, it looks very difficult to understand, right? But actually it's very easy to get. Let me explain you why artificial intelligence will not replace you, judges. This is actually the Cobb-Douglas equation. It's very easy to understand. You have the Y, so efficiency in terms of case analysis. You have the L, which is labor, so your reasoning, your logic reasoning. And you have the K, money. We all need money to perform in any situation. You have the alpha. So the alpha you can find here is actually the automation, artificial intelligence. If this alpha is increasing, of course, you have your efficiency that will increase as well. And actually now, currently, we have actually the current alpha is at its lowest level. That means that artificial intelligence is not fully integrated in the judicial system. But what we would understand is actually if we increase automation, it would mean that judges will get replaced. Not really, because you have actually what we name the Baumol effect. The Baumol effect assumes that actually when the innovation is increasing, actually after a certain level of innovation and development, you need human to give a new orientation of your technology. You need human to take decision in order actually to better create a new system. And this has been demonstrated, or this has been demonstrated for a while, from the beginning of modern society. I bet you can't actually find an example in history that would say that actually this equation is fake equation. This is a really true equation, and actually artificial intelligence will also actually confirm let's say the consistency of this equation. So concretely, judges will interpret more, because actually artificial intelligence will give space to reasoning, and it will help judges understand the cases. Also, you will gain higher responsibility, because decision making will have a greater value. And finally, this is very consistent with current studies. Current studies say that actually we will create more jobs, and lately World Economic Forum research said that actually we will create more than 80 million jobs, and we will replace only 60 million jobs. So if we compute, it's very easy to understand. There is future for judge, there is future for logic reasoning, for human logic reasoning, and artificial intelligence will help us to better build a new world. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bader. Thank you very much. Another proof that machine cannot replace human. A lovely presentation where he bypassed, and he told you that, and the coding, he converted the coding to a normal, traditional meaning of those codes. Let me go for the next speaker. Okay. All right. Our next speaker, he's a dear friend of mine. He's an attorney also. This attorney, Gaël Boven, he's based in Brussels, Belgium. He practices as an international lawyer specializing in blockchain, AI, and cryptocurrencies. He's also business law, international investment, mediation, real estate, and criminal law. Last year, he co-founded the international platform for blockchainers.com, a forum dedicated to the field of blockchain, DeFi, and artificial intelligence. Let's welcome Mr. Gaël to his presentation. And I would love to just spread it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be in front of you today. Welcome from the invitation. It's always something really special for me to be here in Dubai. So thank you again, and salam alaikum. So let's start with talking about AI. So today we heard a lot of things about AI, and I would like to ask you to start with one question. I would like to start with a basic question is, what do you think about AI, and do you think AI, do you think you use AI pastly, maybe a few minutes ago, maybe last days, I don't know. What do you think? But let me tell you something. We are using AI tools every day. Even maybe 10 minutes before, setting our alarms, having a recommendation on Spotify or Netflix, everything that we are using, almost, that suggestion, recommendation on our smartphone is AI. And this is why AI has been defined by his father, Mr. John McCarthy, as simply, it's a very quick definition, is simply the science and engineering of building intelligent machines. In the sense that you are creating machines that can replicate human cognition. And if you take one other aspect, a specific aspect of AI, it's what is called the machine learning. It's really, really interesting because machine learning gives the ability to a machine to learn from experience. And that is something that is really human. That is the gift that we receive from God, to learn from experience, to have finally a common sense, to have this ability to distinguish situation, emotions, dangers, and to find correlative patterns between all of them. Simply to do what? To elaborate critical solutions. So this is AI technology. And AI is something that we can say how can I say it? It's in tune with the times. It's really nowadays, because on the one hand, you have the digital natives. This is a generation of young people that is used to new technology, that is used to find, reply, answer in a fast way, cheap way on the internet. So it's normal to see AI develop. And on the other hand, it's been now, I guess, almost 2 years that we are struggling with COVID-19 situation. So the pandemic helped us to understand that we need to adapt to our environment. We need to always reimagine our world. We need to always make things anew. And the pandemic gives us a lesson. When we are in confinement, we cannot move anymore in a free way. And especially for justice. Justice normally needs distance. But because of the pandemic, we needed to adapt. And what did we do? We created virtual courts. We created digital justice. Because there is really something that qualifies us as human beings is our resilience. This is one also of the best gift God gives us. So, now I define AI and I introduce my subject. I will, so that's what just I did, artificial intelligence. And now we will go through what it is called the chatbots. Like always, we are all using chatbots, but most of the time we don't know that we call them chatbots. So chatbots, to say it in a very simple manner, is a piece of software that is able to execute automatically small tasks, repetitive tasks. And in the legal field, it will be like a small robot, a small piece of software that will execute legal work, legal task. And let's forget about the theoretic explanation, we will directly go to practical aspects. And to explain my subject, I will talk about first do not pay. Do not pay is a chatbot, a legal chatbot, that allow people to contest, to challenge parking tickets. And it has been created a few years ago, I think in 2016, and since that time, Do Not Pay, the application Do Not Pay, has helped a lot of people to overrule almost 160,000 parking tickets, issues with parking tickets. And then they developed the system, and now the system is also able to deal with company and association issues, as well as residential housing. That is Do Not Pay. For the robot lawyer Lisa, Lisa comes from Legal Intelligent Support Assistant. And Lisa was considered as the first world robot lawyer. And Lisa was designed as a robot lawyer to help you create confidentiality agreement, non-disclosure agreement. And then Lisa will help either lawyer, either clients. If clients want to avoid lawyers, they can do them by themselves. They just have to install the application and to submit a form. Lisa will ask you a series of questions, and then on the basis of that series of questions, a document will be created. And then the other parties can review the document. And then when all parties are fine with the document, the final document is created, and the party can decide if the document is binding or not, as with the usual law. So they sign the document is binding. We also have ROS. ROS is a special AI tool, also considered as one of the first robots in the field, AI tool, that will help us to search in the judicial history. So it's a huge database with a lot of decisions in America. I forgot to precise, but Lisa is in America, United States, and ROS also in United States. So ROS contains a lot of judicial decision and will help you go through it. So it's really, really helpful. For example, I used to tell people that example. You are in the middle of the night, there is a new decision arising, so either you have to pay an intern extra fees for him to dig into it, either you just have your ROS AI tool that will directly be updated with the new decision and will give you that new decision. So it's really useful. And finally, there is Anika. Anika is a very special legal chatbot. Anika comes from the name of the goddess in India, meaning the goddess of justice and peace. And Anika also falls for the philosophical concept, Buddhist philosophical concept of, it's really interesting. It's the concept of the constant change in life. There is this principle of constant change. Everything is constantly changing in life, evolving. And Anika allows you to connect law students with people that need help. So it connects law students with people that need pro bono, pro dio. It's very helpful, and it works this way. It concerns residential leases. It's about this one, problem with between landlords and tenants. And it's very easy. You are tenant, you have a problem, you install the app or you register on the website, and then you ask, you tell the program your problem. Within 2 days, someone from Anika will call you back. and just give you some explanation about your issue. And then right after, there is a law student that will be contacted to realize a first draft with the help of Anika AI. And just right after this, there will be an experienced lawyer that will revise the whole document. And then you have a specific document, really efficient document. And just to give you an information, Anika comes from Australia, and in Australia there is around 100, a bit more than 100,000 people who see their normal mandatory legal aid decline. Why? Because justice is underfinanced. So again, here is an opportunity for us that we understand or that we're interested with new technology to help people. So that was about the first step of AI, the chatbot. And now I would like to talk with you about digitalizing justice. And to give a good speech about this subject, I divide in two parts. The first part will concern the ODR, and the second one will concern the virtual court. So we will go crescendo. The first part, ODR, for people who don't know what is it. ODR means online dispute resolution. And it has been created in the late 90s. The first one was created for eBay, the great auction website. ODR, simply, to tell you simply what is it, is just an automated platform. We can help you 24 hours, 7 days per week, to give you a constant online support. So it's very helpful. And to give you example, because practical examples are always better than a long speech of theory, you have the High Court Houses. High Court Houses is an application, a website where you can register, and you will ask, when you have a problem, to constitute a jury of citizens. Any citizen can compose the jury, and then the jury will decide, will give you an analysis of your case, and you will receive a summary of the information, the most important information decided by the jury. And on this basis, you can decide or if you want the decision of the jury to be binding or just advisorial. So it's something like, it's huge. It's something that in the past we will never had thought about it. Then you have Modria.com. Modria.com is also a really great ODR that it is used in America. A lot of cities are using it. It's to allow landlords to contest, to challenge property taxes. So again, it's really easy, accessible. You go to the platform online, and on the platform, you just enter the information about your issue. And once you have done that, it's really easy. Either the system is agree with you, and the property tax is already overturned, either it is not. And then you should go to the normal judges. There is as well the Square Trade, but since we are running out of time, I will just skip and talk about the Civil Resolution Tribunal in British Columbia. It's really a real digital court. So you have a digital online court that will help you resolving your case. But since I don't have a lot of time anymore, I will just talk about Hangzhou Tribunal, because Hangzhou Tribunal is really the most developed digital court in the world. It gives to people the feeling that we are really in front of a real court, that is like a physical court. And how does it function? You, again, access the website of Hangzhou Tribunal, you submit your cases, and then you will have a contact within 15 days from a member of the tribunal by phone or by video conference. You will together analyze the case. If a mediation is possible, then it's done there, and the mediation will be enforceable, like a binding decision for a tribunal. If it's not, you will have a hearing that will be organized. And the main aspect of that hearing is that the hearing will take place like when we do a Zoom, but at the same time, the hearing will be live streamed to ensure the well-known principle of publicity of proceedings. Though so it's really something that it's huge in the world. And it deals especially with commercial subjects, so issues in the e-commerce between consumers, suppliers, etc., property rights, etc. And another fact to note, it's really important, the tribunal is as a competence for all issues with a value of $7 million. So it's not only small litigations anymore. It's also with complex. And another thing to note here is that the Digital Court of Hangzhou has a very, very good success rate. There is only 1.5% of court decisions that are subject to an appeal just after having used that digital court. So it's really fantastic. And to conclude, Prometeo is also really fantastic. It's in Argentina. It's something, just to give you an example, Prometeo was able to predict court ruling in less than 20 seconds with an accuracy rate of 96%. And Prometeo was also able to decide to provide rulings for cases like drunk drivers, to provide the rulings in 26 days in place of the 126 days that it takes normally with human work. Okay? So again, it's really something that it's a passion. So let's jump to the conclusion now. That's a good sentence from Larry Page, co-founder and developer of Google. But this one will accompany what I will just say. So for me, in my point of view, AI is here. AI is here, and AI is here to stay. So it's not a question anymore of thinking that we will use AI. Do we need AI? No, it's a matter of thinking society is changing, is reshaped by new technology. It is now the time to accept it and to develop with it. There is, like a great professor of Stanford said, there is no dichotomy between we should be using only AI or only human. We should ensure that the two coexist. We should take the best of the two. That's why we need AI. And just to summarize in one sentence, AI must then not be feared or escaped, but AI needs to be canalized, mastered, to achieve more with less. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gael. It was interesting. Okay, let's go now for our fifth speaker. Now, just before I introduce our fifth speaker, we heard all about AI. And we heard that, I call this digitization, where you convert the manual work into solutions, analog to digital. But again, when you create solutions, you need to make this solution converted into business, into services. True? After you create the business, also you need to create opportunities. Now, those opportunities, they call them digital transformation. We will call our fifth speaker, George Sebastião. He is international ICT speaker, seasoned CTO with blockchain, AI, IoT, cybersecurity, managed services, and cloud computing, and big data. He's co-founder and CTO of Ubuntu Tribe, co-founder and advisor of Can ETH staking services, and co-founder and executive director in the Global Blockchain Organization. Please welcome with me Mr. George in his speech.
Thank you. It's always difficult to be what we call the graveyard shift, which is the last speaker of the day. But I'll promise two things. One is I'll be short and I'll get to the point very fast. Obviously, the previous presenters already covered very well the importance of both artificial intelligence as well as the law. But there's another important element that has to be integrated into the whole equation. And this is what we call digital transformation. And that is a lot more difficult thing to do because we're trying to change the way people do things. And changing people approach and behavior is a much more difficult thing to do. So let me try to give you a little bit of an appreciation about how digital transformation happens and what are the critical elements that apply to digital transformation. When we talk about really digital transformation, we're talking about changing the way you do things. That means we're going to introduce elements of technology and process that are going to disrupt the way you have been doing business, the way you've been doing law. So maybe you've been doing this for 50 years, for hundreds of years. So today, this disruption is massive and needs to be addressed. And it's even more important than that, because no matter how much planning you do, and people like Mike Tyson do planning every day, when you get hit, you never know where the hit is going to come from. So it's not just about having a plan, it's about having adjustments to the plan, because you live in a highly dynamic environment, decentralized environment of today. Everything today happens at the speed of light. And why? Because everything is based on technology, on networking, on data. And all of these elements are affecting our life, including the lawyers' lives, in a much more disruptive way. When we talk about disruptive technologies, it's not just one single technology that has actually enabled artificial intelligence to affect our lives. It's a combination of many technologies. Technologies like internet, mobile computing and 5G, cloud, I think big data was addressed by one of the previous speakers, and many others. But some others are now playing an important role, like for example, blockchain. Many of you probably have heard about it, but obviously these technologies are important because each one plays not just their own role, but also a complementary role in the whole digital transformation process. So anytime we're talking about disruption, there is three axes in which this disruption happens. It happens because these technologies are changing the way we do business. The second one is changing our business model. That means how the elements are combined together and how we conduct our daily business life. But the last element is the most important one, is the exponential aspect and impact in what we sometimes refer to as the adoption curve. Sometimes we call this 5x, 10x, or sometimes even 50x. That means you'll be able to do things at a much higher speed than you have been able to do in the past. So let's look at one of the first technologies. Since the key technology of today is based on data, you need to be able to collect that data, and this is where things like, for example, IoT play an extremely important role. That means we need to collect the data securely. We need to connect that data at the source. So Internet of Things, or sometimes we call Internet of Everything, combined with telecommunications, sometimes 5G, WiMAX, satellite, or many others, enables us to collect the data and then make the right decisions with the correct data. Many of you probably, if you're familiar with court of law, and if you heard about, for example, the CFO of Huawei was a temporary part in Canada and was under being extradited potentially to the United States. This got resolved. But the interesting part about that particular case is that this CFO had to wear a ankle. This ankle was a 5G, 4G device that allowed her to remain at home. The most interesting aspect is that this 4G device was actually made by Huawei. So it's actually, she was being protected by the company that she actually created in the first place. Now, when we talk specifically about AI, there's some elements that are extremely important. One is, what is enable AI? AI has been with us for 40, 50 years. The key changes that have happened in the last 10 years is the speed at which we pay for storage and the availability of high performance computing. This is the same performance computing. This is actually enabling blockchain as well, because those three elements combined together enables us to have cheap, affordable AI and trainable AI with the right necessary amount of data. The other important technology that is affecting the way we do business is a technology known as blockchain. Sometimes I call this a technology of trust, a technology that enables us to transfer value and enables us to do that without a centralized authority. This is changing radically and will affect, for example, our courts of law as well as how we transfer assets between different individuals or corporations or combination of both. The other element that I find extremely important is that in most business or other applications, you don't just simply use one technology. It's how you combine several technologies together in a creative way to make things different. So here we have an example in which we combine artificial intelligence, robotics, and blockchain together. Why is this combination extremely important? Because the AI allows us to train, allows us to do machine learning. Robotics allows us to do repetitive tasks. Sometimes the robots could be software-based, like, for example, the robot that answers a call on a telephone, but it could actually be a mechanical robot. And blockchain allows us to establish trust across those three elements. Now, more specifically about lawyers. This is not new. So if we go back 5-10 years, the law itself was already being disrupted by artificial intelligence. Why is this important? Because it's dynamically changing the way you're doing business in the law. So let me play for you a short video.
The use of these automated systems, even in the application of law. Judges, for example, are now using algorithms to assess whether or not people should be released free trial.
Robots are already judging humans.
Oh yeah, in many states around the country already.
Oh my God, he's right. Robot judges are already performing pre-trial risk assessment, helping human judges determine bail or if a person should be detained.
And over 1 million criminal cases have been processed using these systems.
So what are the benefits of having machines in the judiciary?
Well, so some people say that these algorithms will be sort of free of bias in the way that judges are not.
So we're talking about lawyers being replaced by robots so that we remove the bias that is being affected some of the decisions. Now, all of this needs to have a proper architecture, needs to have the elements that bring it all together. But the key element is really machine learning, data, and blockchain all being combined into a single integrated solution. But I think we need more than that. There's a term we call conscientious, which means that when you do something, you have to do it for a good cause, not just to do it because it's just right. It has to be for the humans or the societies that you're trying to serve. So we call this an AI conscientious framework, that it means law with the proper ethics. So this combines IoT, blockchain, trust, and intelligence with the necessary purpose. So by having these three elements combined together, we achieve in a much more balanced approach towards providing the necessary legal services, but also providing them in a way in which they can service citizens in an appropriate way. Are we finished? No, there's many other things coming. How many here have heard about the metaverse? How many people here have used Facebook in the past? They just changed their name. They're now called Meta. That really means the world in which we live is going to be somehow replaced, but I don't think so. We prefer the word multiverse, in which we have the physical world that we use every day and the new metaverse, and the two are combined together. So we can all refer to this as the multiverse. That really means that you'll have a physical world in which you do decisions, and you have a digital twin that integrates into that physical world. So this means you need to have better user interfaces on how you deliver the services, not using the traditional text that you have seen in the past. We sometimes call this virtual reality, augmented reality, or even the best of the two, what we call mixed reality. And a lot of new solutions are being done to do that. The last element that I wanted to bring into my talk to finalize is that you want to do this in a successful way. It's really a combination of several parties. I already addressed the technology element, but most of you work somehow in government. Governments tend to move slow. So how do you get governments to move faster? You do partnerships, you create an ecosystem, and we call this PPP, private and public partnerships. This enables you to introduce a whole new way of doing government. Government that is technologically aware, that is agile, and it's serving the people in a much more effective way. But there's a challenge. Challenge is that technology moves fast, society moves a little bit more slower, and political is even more slower. So how do we address these different speeds so that we service the citizens in the best way? So this is the challenge that you have to come up with. How you combine agility with integration, flexibility, and create the appropriate ecosystem that actually will serve your citizens in a law-appropriate way, in a conscientious way. Thank you very much for the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions. Thank you. Mr. Al-Dosri, I pass you back.
Thank you very much. والآن حان الوقت لأسئلة واستفسارات الحضور الكرام للمتحدثين، فليتفضلوا.
السلام عليكم. إن شاء الله المحاضرات اللي سمعتوها كانت مفيدة، وطبعا ما في كراسي طبعا بيصير كاجوال، فيري كاجوال. إذا أي واحد عنده مداخلة أو أي واحد عندها مداخلة تبون تسألونهم فتفضلوا حياكم. ممكن إحنا هم يسمعون. Do we have وين الهايلة؟ إذا أحد عنده سؤال بالإنجليزي حاليا يقدر يسأل، عندهم ذي. تفضل طال عمرك.
مساكم الله بالخير. Very good afternoon. My question is maybe from Mr. George's presentation. How crucial is the private sector developing cycle and developing the judiciary services? Now, most of the example that we had throughout your through presentation present some experience from the private sector. I know many websites that Modria, legal advice, those are a solution came from the private sector. How far the private sector can play a major role here to develop the judiciary system? Is it a good chance, or is it a good choice to open the door as a judiciary system for the private sector to play a major role over here? Or we look at what the private sector is doing and we try to adopt it internally, and maybe we can be successful or a failure experience? Thank you very much.
I do believe it's probably a combination of both, but one thing is for sure, governments tend to move at a much slower pace and private sector moves at a much higher speed. The thing that one has to realize that is when even the government does not move at a fast speed, the private sector just takes over. That's the nature of business today. And I can give you an example in which what I would call traditional contracts have been replaced by electronic contracts. This is an example. I will not name the name of the company, but it's important to highlight. It's the largest telecom organization in the world. They have hundreds of contracts with their suppliers. Typically, these contracts have adjustments and a lot of paperwork that goes with them. Sometimes they have to go to legal disputes and so on. What they have decided to do is they have decided to replace this with 100%
electronic contracts on the blockchain. That means the two parties, which is the telecom organization and their suppliers, sign an electronic contract that is binding. And as a result, this organization, which operates over 50 telecom jurisdictions around the world, will save about $450 million a year. So that really is the kind of impact that you will introduce and the governments that you're responsible for. In reality, what you're doing by introducing more digitization, you're removing a lot of this paperwork that is slowing the whole system down. So that means the data is there, but it's just becoming electronic, and you're removing all the manual steps in which this data is being handled from one desk to the other.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I add something?
Very quick. In the case of, we have to separate legal tech for lawyers. The private sector is clear there, but judiciary or administration, it has to be collaboration, public and private, but in some areas it's very, very critical. The model of United States, we know the case of Loomis and the case of Compass, that they are private, and it has a problem from the European perspective because they give the service, but the machine is for the private sector, and we don't know the black box. Then we don't have enough guarantees of due process and that, and the predictive policy and the criminal predictions and that, it could, they can, in the end, could have some decisions of the judiciary, of the administration, we don't know exactly what are the reasons, and then in Europe it's not easy in these areas, this collaboration. Normally the majority of the projects of the European Union that are more sensitive have to be own developed by the public sector to have more guarantees of transparency, not to have all the confidence in the private sector. Any case, I have told about ROS by IBM or Google AI is developing these kind of tools in some areas not very sensitive. It is necessary, this collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes?
Because this is a really good question, and I think
You want to
answer.
All right. All right.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so this is a very interesting question. Actually, the future of artificial intelligence is about establishing a strategy between the public and the private sector. Actually, we have to keep in mind that the most important paradigm we should embrace in the future is a state capitalism. It sounds like contradictory, but actually it works because you need fund and intelligence from the private sector, and you need rules and direction from the public. And this is actually the remedy for the future and the win for all of us.
Thanks for the question, Mr. In my opinion, I will reply that, first of all, let's distinguish two things. First of all, creativity, ingenuity often comes within the private sector. So oftentimes, private sector takes the lead and show us the way. But then, when a technology starts to be used by so many people, by so many citizens, I think reaching a certain limit, a certain stage, it's the mission of public authorities to regulate. And the mission of public authorities and the organizational, it's to finally to design the frame, to design the frame that will manage the operability of the AI tool. So this is something really important. And to come back with one of my examples, Prometheus was first of all created to help judicial system and also private sector, but then they noticed that it's so helpful that it could also be used by public organizations. And that's why, for example, Prometheus is used by court in America or the Colombian Constitutional Court, etc., like AI assistant. So there is really a link between the private sector that is helpful to create the new technology and the public sector, and especially the public authorities that at certain point need to put a frame to regulate, to protect people, to guarantee the transparency, the non-discriminatory principle, and all the well-known principle of justice. So I think this is a correct way of replying to this question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's yours. Yeah. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not going to repeat myself. I totally agree with your point of view. I think really the key is to keep together, to work together, private and public sector. But the question is that really possible? Because in the past, it has been like quite hard to mix both. For example, I will put you an example that happened with the coronavirus in Europe. In private sector, we work a lot in many technological companies to develop different AI systems to try to help investigation in coronavirus. And we put our service in private sector into the service of public sector. And really public sector, and at least in Spain, didn't have that confidence in private sector to get our tools. So I think the challenge is to change our minds, change our minds as the minds of public sector and private sector. And that is the big challenge. The thing is not if we should do that, because of sure we should do that, but the challenge is to change our minds. And it's a big thing. Just imagine, we haven't acted as totally different in the past. And the thing is that we should, first of all, change the mind of people in governments and then learn, teach them to really collaborate, to have confidence in the private sector and work together.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, تبون تسألون بالعربي؟ ممكن. They can translate. Okay, all right.
Thank you so much. Great presentations. I just have a question. I would like to know the United Nations experience. For example, a High Court. Do they apply more of artificial intelligence? Because I believe they will be role models and mentor for many countries. Thank you.
I only say I'm not exactly sure about the question, but last week, United Nations by UNESCO has more or less passed the resolution about ethics in artificial intelligence. It is a long document and it's a sure point together to establish the minimum of the basis how to work with artificial intelligence. I think it's a very, very important document with consensus.
Yeah. Thank you very much. أي مداخلة؟ Okay. All right. I think, anyone? All right. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And مشكورين ما قصرتوا جزاكم الله ألف خير. بس بنكمل البرنامج الحين مع عريف الحفل. لأخذ دلال. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, you did that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing, one sentence.
Yes.
I just wanted to add to the audience regarding the aspect of challenges. What will be human within challenges? It's the way forwards. It's the way of evolution. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا للأستاذ أحمد البلوشي وجميع المشاركين في هذه الجلسة الحوارية. والآن كلمة ختامية للدكتور جاسم حاجي رئيس المجموعة العالمية للذكاء الاصطناعي، ومن ثم تكريم المتحدثين وتسليم الدرع التذكاري. فليتفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة الحضور الكريم، ختاما أشكركم على حضوركم المشرف الذي ساهم في نجاح المؤتمر. أتكلم جزيل الشكر وتقديري لمعالي الدكتور نائب فلاح مبارك الحجرف الأمين العام لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية، وإلى فريق التنظيم لجناح مجلس التعاون في معرض إكسبو 2020 بالأخص برئاسة الأخ سعادة المفوض العام الأستاذ خالد آل الشيخ. في النهاية نأمل أن نخرج من المؤتمر الذكاء الاصطناعي في شؤون المحاكم والقانون بمخرجات قضائية وبعدين تنفع البلاد والعباد، وبالأخص المخرجات اللي راح نقدمهم مع الأخوة إلى الجناح التنظيمي في مؤتمر إكسبو وليشاركونكم، وأيضا العروض البرزنتيشنز متواجدين معنا إذا أصحاب السعادة ومعادة الحضور يحتاجوا لهم. ففضل دلال تكريم من قبل سعادة الأمين العام المساعد، وشكرا لحضوركم.
شكرا دكتور. والآن فليتفضل سعادة المستشار سلطان بن ناصر السويدي الأمين المساعد للشؤون التشريعية والقانونية لتسليم الشهادات للمتحدثين.
يقول أسماء المتحدثين. Professor Adoria Salazar from Spain.
Dr. Lorenzo Cotino. Dr. Badr Bousabat. Mr. George Sebastio. And finally, Mr. Esquire Boven. شكرا جزيلا سعادة المستشار سلطان بن ناصر السويدي. وتتشرف المجموعة العالمية للذكاء الاصطناعي بتقديم درع تذكاري للأمانة العامة لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية. وفي الختام نشكر معاليكم وسعادتكم لتشريفكم هذا المؤتمر، كما نشكر جميع الحضور والمشاركين على دعمهم ومشاركتهم الفاعلة، على أمل اللقاء بكم في ندوات أخرى بإذن الله، مع تمنياتنا للجميع بدوام الصحة والعافية، ودمتم في رعاية الله، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.